One of these 5 books, I guarantee no one has recommended in their 5 books or 10 books you must read videos. It's a bestseller from 1991 that I've owned and read for over 30 years. And stay tuned, because the last book I'll share was the only book Steve Jobs had downloaded on his iPad, the only one. He first read it as a teenager, and then every year after that, he read it again. He even gifted it to every person that attended his funeral. How much he must have thought of this book to leave it as his parting gift to those who cared about him. I want to present these 6 books to read in a particular order that I think you should read them. You don't have to, but in order to shift your identity, change the way you think, and find success in any area. Here's where I would start. The first thing you need to do is take complete ownership of your life. In this book, Extreme Ownership by Navy SEALs Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, is super powerful. I read this book with my son. We went through it together. The thing I love about this book and taking extreme ownership, if I own everything in my life, then I'm empowered to do something about it. But if I outsource my power, my happiness, my success to other people, oh, it's the economy, oh, it's the government, oh, it's my spouse, oh, it's the job. No, I have to take complete ownership of my life. And guess what? I chose to live under this government and in this economy. I chose that job that has that boss. I chose that spouse. These are all decisions that I'm in control of. And I like that because it's empowering, because if I'm in control, I can do something about it. If it really is somebody else's fault, then I'm not, and I'm disempowered, and I don't like that. So the first thing you need to do is take extreme ownership. I recommend reading this book. And the second book is the book that I said no one else is going to recommend. There's videos about it, but it's in nobody's 10 books or 5 books or whatever list you must read. And it is Do It, Let's Get Off Our Butts by Peter McWilliams. And this is a take action book. So the first one was to take ownership. This one is a classic take action book. It's got some humor in it, but it has tons of great insights. And I've continuously been learning from it for over 30 years. Now, this is where we start to get a little deep. And the third book is The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton, PhD. And this book really brings home the idea to understand that thoughts affect the body and the environment. We become what we think about. And this is a scientific approach and a quantum physics approach to proving that that is actually fact. So you got to have that understanding if you want to make any real change. Before we get to the last 3 books, if you want some other book lists that I've made, like the top 5 books to read if you want to change the way you think about money, then sign up to the email list that will be below in either the description or the comments. All right, let's get to the last 3. This third one, Be Your Future Self Now by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. I read this last year. It is phenomenal. And this is really a blueprint to use psychology to shift into your future desired self, to shift your identity to your future desired self. This and the next book both talk a lot about being, doing, having, or the reverse, having, doing, being. And it's been very transformational for me to really get a hold of that. And a silly example you can think of is I saw a post from a young lady on TikTok or somewhere, and she said, I'm not going to do any more until they pay me more. So she has the idea that after she has, then she will do and become the better employee or the better manager. And the truth is, when you start being, you start identifying and thinking like, let's say, a great employee or a manager, then you start taking actions like a great employee or a manager, and then you end up having the promotion, the money, etc. So it's that concept of being, doing, having versus having, doing, being. But very powerful stuff. I highly recommend this book and any other books that Dr. Benjamin Hardy has put out as well. Number 5 goes deeper into that blueprint of changing your identity using quantum physics with psychology and even meditation to completely rewire your brain and change your identity. And that is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. If you've watched any of Joe Dispenza's videos or interviews, he's just a fascinating, intelligent, sweet man. But this book is just as good as his interviews. It's a must-have for anybody's library. And last but not least is the book that we're talking about with Steve Jobs, the only book he had downloaded on his tablet, and the book that he gifted at his funeral. That made me think, what book would I gift at my funeral? I'm going to have to wrestle with that. Leave it in the comments below what book you would gift at your funeral. But it is the autobiography by Paramahansa Yogananda. But I read this book last year as well, maybe 2 years ago, but it's very fascinating to see the world from a whole new perspective. You know, growing up in the West, growing up in a Christian environment, and then even being in the Christian church and ministry, this forced me to listen to some things and see some things and think about some things in a whole new light, and expand my imagination on the possibilities of what is out there. And maybe that's what Steve Jobs saw in it, the idea that there's so much more than we realize to this life and to this existence. We can dare to imagine a much different life. It is my prayer that you're able to get a hold of these books, apply them to your life, take action, and absolutely change who you are and find all the success and joy that you desire in 2024. If I can be of service, please let me know. And remember, to see more book lists, just sign up in the email below.